Washed. The word that has completely lost its meaning in MMA and is one of the most overused terms. We see it time and time again after each fight card, especially pay-per-view. There can be a fighter in a 12-fight winning streak, but if they lose their matchup, they're going to get called washed. You'll see people saying his chin is gone, he was never actually that good. It's time to have that discussion, right? Sometimes they're right, but a lot of times they're not. And I don't think it's because MMA fans are stupid. I just think that our brains are wired to overreact to recent events. Today I want to explain why we do this, why it keeps happening, and why it's changing the way that we judge fighters. Okay, that's going to lead me to part 1, why our brains do this. Imagine your favorite NBA player has a bad shooting night and they only score 8 points. You don't suddenly think that he forgot how to play basketball or he's washed or trash, anything like that, right? But in MMA, one bad night can erase 5 years of greatness. Okay, in MMA, fighters are lucky to compete up to 2 to 3 times a year. It makes every performance feel huge, especially if it's a ranked fighter. Then within the UFC rankings, we all know how bad it is, making it hard to get fights booked and injuries and everything that plays in the fight camps. So when a fighter does finally have a fight booked, however that performance goes is going to be how they're looked at up until their next fight. Okay, it doesn't matter if the fighter was on a 12-fight win streak, like I said. If they go in and anything bad happens, even if they get a win, but it's just a bad look in fans' eyes, that's going to be how they're perceived for a long while. The last thing that we saw becomes the truth in our minds. Now, I always think of the guy in my thumbnail, JDM. This is the guy that went on a pretty long win streak in the welterweight division, became champion after defeating Bilal Muhammad. A lot of people deemed him as one of, if not the best boxers in the UFC. So a lot of people rated him pretty highly in this community until he lost to Islam. Mind you, the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, Islam Makhachev. I mean, I can't lie, there were some really bad pictures to come out of that fight, right? I don't know why the hell he was making faces on the ground like that. Then he went on to lose to Carlos Prates as well. Then everybody just kind of writes him off as a bum now and somebody that was never that good. I think that's fair to say that he's washed or was never good because he lost to 2 of the best fighters in the UFC. Okay, that's going to lead me to my part 2 though. Social media makes it worse. Think about it, nobody's going to open up TikTok or Twitter and see people say, let's wait a couple fights before we judge him. That's not exciting. Instead, the posts that's going to blow up are the ones that saying he was a fraud, he's washed, he was never that good. The more extreme the opinion, the more people feel they need to react. If they agree, they're going to like and repost it. If they disagree, it's going to be a war in the comments. And that's exactly what the social media algorithm is built to reward. You know, a breakdown explaining how he actually lost to an elite fighter is going to get ignored over that. Over time, that's changed how we actually talk about fighting. Instead of asking what actually happened in the fight and having discourse over it, it just comes down to what's the strongest possible reaction you can have to the loss. So yeah, social media does not reward nuance. It rewards certainty. And when certainty gets rewarded more than accuracy, fan discussions become more extreme than the fight themselves. Alright, that's going to lead me to part 3. I'm going to provide some real examples of UFC fighters besides JDM that I mentioned earlier. Sean Strickland is one of my favorite examples for this. He ended up having a very close fight with DDP in the first fight, but in the second he just kind of got completely outclassed. Okay, so fans went from saying that he was robbed in the first fight to he was washed. Okay, the narrative completely flipped on him. People were saying that he was never championship level, Adesanya was washed when he beat him for the belt. DDP had an amazing performance, controlled the majority of the fight. Winning the fight clearly and broke his nose, but fans were not talking about that. Instead of talking about how phenomenal the performance was, fans were just talking about how washed Sean is. Which we all know to not be true, as he came back and finished Anthony Hernandez and had the biggest upset win of the year against Khamzat Chimaev. Instead of giving flowers, fans usually choose to just call the other fighter washed. It's a cleaner story for them. Instead of ever asking how good is the guy he lost to, we ask how bad has he become. Okay, next up, Alexander Volkanovski. Before fighting Ilia Topuria, he was widely deemed as one of the featherweight GOATs and one of the best fighters of all time. The Islam fights, on top of getting knocked out by one of the most dangerous fighters in the UFC, overnight the discourse changed to him becoming washed, in which, just like Sean Strickland, he has come back and won the belt. So what actually changed? Was he actually washed, or was he just fighting 2 of the best fighters in the world? Okay, next I'm going to put one of my favorite fighters, Charles Oliveira. This fighter might be the one that fans flip-flop on. More than anyone else, I don't think I've ever seen narratives change more. After he lost to Islam, people were saying that he was finished. that he can't beat contenders and wrestlers, that the title run was over and he's never going to get the belt again. Then he came back and knocked out Beneil Dariush in the first round. Then we all know he lost a very close fight to Arman Tsarukyan. That didn't help the wrestler's narrative at all. That caused people to be saying Gamrot would beat Charles Oliveira too, which Charles completely outclassed him. Notice how people's opinions change after every single fight. When in all reality, Charles was always that good and he just lost to elite competition. Alright, I gotta throw in my boy Dustin Poirier. After he suffered a head kick loss to Justin Gaethje, the entire discourse around him was that he was finished, that he should get one last favorable matchup and retire. But instead he got matched up with Benoit Saint Denis, and a lot of people were saying that was over. I know we all seen the videos from Lucas Tracy talking about Benoit Saint Denis. You know, it's over for Unk. Dustin's not gonna be able to stop the wrestling. He's a marauder. Benoit Saint Denis, he's gonna manhandle him. But Dustin went out there and knocked his ass out in the second round, which ended up giving him a title shot against Islam Makhachev. Okay, and even in that title fight, old man Dustin with no hips was landing on Islam, making his face look like this. Okay, now with all these examples I provided, you guys notice something? Every single one of these fighters were not losing to lesser competition, right? They were losing to champions, future champions, and top contenders. Somehow we've convinced ourselves that losing to some of the best fighters in the world means that you're not. Okay, being washed is not losing. It's not getting knocked out. It's not getting outclassed by another elite opponent. Being washed is when your physical attributes have clearly declined over multiple performances, and there's consistent evidence that you can't perform at the level that you once could. The problem is MMA fans often skip that entire process. One loss is all the evidence they need for them to make those claims. Alright, that's going to bring me to part 4. When calling a fighter washed is actually fair. Sometimes fighters really do decline for a multitude of reasons. Most commonly age, right? As fighters get older, their bodies are naturally not going to work as good as they used to. On top of all the damage they accumulated throughout their career, especially fighters that did take a lot of it, okay, their reflexes are going to be a lot worse. They're going to be slower, a lot less durable, getting thrown into terrible matchups just to build the young contenders up. Decline is gradual and it happens over time. Okay, it's not one fight, and we keep seeing that time and time again. Jack Della Maddalena is the same fighter that he was when he was on that win streak. The same fighter that beat Belal Muhammad for the belt is the same fighter that lost to Islam and Carlos Prates. Okay, he did not just become washed in that short amount of time. So why do we keep making this mistake? It's because our brain craves simple explanations. Alright, think about it. Which story is easier to believe? This fighter's timing has slowed slightly. He's older and has accumulated years of damage. His opponent studied and game planned for all his tendencies, had a perfect game plan, and just simply had a better night. Or he's washed. An explanation requires context and the other is just one word. That's why it gets used so often. It simplifies the very complex sport of MMA into an easy label. Like I said, this is not like other sports where athletes compete every few days. So when someone loses, we have months to sit on that performance. It becomes the only thing that we remember. And here's the irony behind it all. If the same so-called washed fighter comes back in 6 months, wins, the exact same people will say that he's back. So which one is it? Was he washed 6 months ago, or is he suddenly elite again? So the next time you see one of your favorite fighters lose, you should ask yourself some of these questions. Have you actually seen him decline, or did he just lose to elite competition? One loss does not erase years of greatness. It does not erase elite wins, and it definitely does not tell us where a fighter's career is headed. Factoring in all the reasons I gave in this video, I don't think it's ever going to change in this community. History will keep repeating itself with this funny cycle that we're in. I think my least favorite part of it all is how much it takes away from the actual winners of the fight. You know, Carlos Prates had the best performance of his career, and the whole discourse after the fight is how washed and bad JDM is at fighting. I just wish that we would give fighters flowers more for their amazing performances, and not give so much shit to the fighters on the receiving end. Fans just tend to explain away greatness instead of appreciating it in the moment. In all reality, this is the craziest, most unpredictable sport in the world, which makes it the best on one end, but we have to deal with stuff like this on the other. Right? We treat these fighters' careers like movies. Every career has to have a beginning, a peak, and a dramatic downfall. So after every loss, fans start looking for that ending. So let me know what you guys think about this topic and if you've fallen victim to it yourself. What are your examples? What do you think of the fighters that I gave in this video? I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. And thank you guys that's all been subscribing lately and all the support on the last video. It became my most viewed video in only a couple of days. So that was really cool to see. But yeah, I appreciate y'all. I'll see you in the next video. Let's hit 100 subscribers. We're so close. Alright, take care of yourselves. Stay hydrated. Peace.